A man kneels in the dirt of a floodplain, alone except for two silent workers holding a slab of stone upright. It is not a weapon. It is not gold. It is a stone with a line carved into it. What he places into the ground in the next few seconds has never existed before. Not once, not anywhere. In 200,000 years of human beings walking this earth, no one has ever done this. Somewhere behind him, two cities are watching, both armed, both furious, both waiting to see which way this stone falls. Because this stone is about to decide something no human hand has ever decided before, where one world ends and another begins. The question is simple. It is also impossible. Why would two cities agree to let a rock tell them where they're allowed to stand? To understand why a rock can stop a war, we have to go back. Further than kings, further than writing itself. Imagine a world with no borders. Not no legal borders, no concept of a border at all, no lines on any map because there are no maps, no fences, no checkpoints, no this side is mine and that side is yours. For most of human history, land wasn't owned, it was just used by whoever was strong enough to use it that season. Somewhere around 2600 BCE, in the marshy floodplain of southern Mesopotamia, that was about to change forever. Two cities, Lagash and Umma, sat close enough to smell each other's cooking fires. Between them lay a strip of land so fertile it could feed thousands. Neither city could prove it owned it. Both were willing to bleed for it. And one day, a king from a third city would walk into that argument and do something no human being had ever done. He would draw a line and dare the gods themselves to enforce it. That line would not survive forever. One day, someone would cross it. And when they did, it wouldn't just start a fight. It would start the first war in recorded human history. But we're getting ahead of ourselves. First, we need to understand why this line even had to exist. Sumer, roughly 4,600 years ago. This is not a desert. This is one of the richest patches of dirt on the entire planet. A floodplain fed by two rivers, the Tigris and the Euphrates, silk black and impossibly fertile. City-states have sprung up along its canals like beads on a string. Uruk, Kish, Umma, Lagash. Each one walled, each one armed, each one convinced it is the center of the world. There are no nations yet, no passports, no borders drawn by treaty, just cities and the land between them up for grabs. Between Lagash and Umma sits a stretch of farmland called Gu Edina, literally the edge of the plain. It isn't just dirt, it's irrigated dirt, threaded with canals that took generations of backbreaking labor to dig. Whoever controls Gu Edina controls the grain that feeds thousands of mouths through the dry season. Think of it like two neighboring towns both claiming the only working well in a drought. Except here, the well produces enough wealth to build temples, arm soldiers, and feed a king's court for a decade. For years, this has meant one thing: raids. Umma's farmers wake up to trampled fields. Lagash's canal workers get ambushed at the water's edge. Nobody keeps records of who struck first, because everybody believes it was the other side. Every year the fighting doesn't stop. More men don't come home from the fields. There is no law that can settle this, no court, no document either city would trust because neither trusts the other to write it fairly. What they need is someone above the fight entirely, someone both cities fear enough and respect enough to obey. That someone already exists. His name is Mesilim, and he is the king of Kish. Kish isn't just another city. In this era, the king of Kish carries something close to a title of overlordship, a name other rulers invoke even when Kish's army is nowhere near them, the way a modern head of a global body might be called in to mediate a border dispute between two smaller nations that will listen to no one else. Lagash and Umma send for him. Mesilim agrees to come, not as a friend to either side, as a judge neither side can ignore. And somewhere on the road toward that disputed strip of farmland, walking into a fight that has already cost both cities blood, Mesilim has no way of knowing that the decision he's about to make will outlive every king, every temple, and every wall in Sumer. He just knows one thing for certain. Whatever line he draws, Someone is going to hate him for it. Mesilim arrives at Guedena to a silence that feels louder than shouting. Elders from Umma stand on one side. Officials from Lagash stand on the other. Between them, a scorched, fought-over stretch of farmland that neither side will look directly at. There's no legal code to consult, no precedent. In a world without written law, a decision like this can't just be Mesilim's opinion, because an opinion can be argued with, and a king with an army 2 cities walk away isn't going to fight a war just to enforce his own personal preference. So Mesilim does the only thing that can make a line unarguable. He consults Enlil, the chief god of the Sumerian pantheon, the deity both cities already fear and worship. Whatever gets decided here isn't going to be Mesilim's border. It's going to be the will of Enlil, carried out by Mesilim's hand. Because a king can be defied, a god in this world cannot. Surveyors move across the field with ropes and wooden stakes, measuring in a language of knots and paces, sweat cutting tracks through the dust on their necks. The air smells of scorched grass and river mud. Somewhere close, a canal gurgles, the same canal that's gotten men killed defending it. For one moment, Mesilim's certainty slips. He is about to hand one side more land than the other. There's no version of this where both cities walk away equally happy. Whatever he decides, he is manufacturing an enemy, possibly for the rest of his reign. His hands don't shake from the heat. He raises his arm toward the field, ready to mark where the line will fall, and holds it there one breath longer than he needs to. Because once this line exists, there's no taking it back. The line is decided. Mesilim places it exactly where the canal work stops being disputed and starts being obviously, provably Lagacious, using the boundary marks already worn into the earth by generations of irrigation. It isn't an arbitrary slash across the map. It's a judgment, built on evidence, wrapped in the authority of a god neither city can safely ignore. Umma is granted the right to farm a portion of Guedena, but only as tenants, paying a grain rent to Lagash's temple of Ningirsu for the privilege. It is, by the standards of this era, remarkably fair. It is also, Mesilim knows, exactly the kind of fare that both sides accept today and quietly resent for years. Somewhere in the future, someone in Umma is going to look at this arrangement and decide the rent isn't worth paying anymore. Mesilim doesn't know that man's name yet. History will eventually. Ush, a future ruler of Umma generations from now. But that's not this day's problem. This day, there is only the field, the ropes, the stakes driven into soft earth, and a king who has run out of time to hesitate. The workers lift the stone. Everyone on both sides of the field goes quiet. The steel is heavy. 2 men carry it between them. Mesilim steps forward. He points to the ground, right here. Not 1 pace east, not 1 pace west. The workers dig. The earth gives way in dark, wet clumps. The stone slides down into the hole, straightens, holds. Carved into its face, a boundary, a line that has never existed in this exact place, in this exact form, in all of human history. And beneath the line, a curse. Should either city ever move this stone, ever cross this line by force, may Enlil himself judge them for it. This is not paperwork. This is not a suggestion. This is the first time in the story of our species that a specific, physical, God-sanctioned line has been driven into the earth to say, your world ends here, theirs begins. No one in Guedena calls it the first border. They don't know they're making history. They just know their fields are safe tonight. But somewhere in this moment, quiet, dusty, almost boring to look at, something changes for every human being who will ever be born after this day. Every war ever fought over a line on a map traces its ancestry back to an afternoon like this one. Not just for Lagash, not just for Umma, for every person who will ever live behind a border, on either side of it, for the next 4,600 years. For a while it holds. Lagash farms its land. Umma pays its grain rent. The stone stands in the field, untouched, doing exactly what it was built to do, turning a war into an argument and an argument into silence. But stones don't enforce themselves. Kings die, memories fade, and somewhere around a century later, a ruler of Umma named Ush decides the arrangement Mesilim built no longer suits him. He tears the stele out of the ground. He pushes Umma's farmers past the boundary Mesilim swore before Enlil himself would never be crossed. The line meant to end the war becomes the reason a new one starts. Lagash's ruler, Eannatum, doesn't hesitate. He marches on Umma, and in the war that follows, a war later carved onto a monument now known as the Stele of the Vultures, Eannatum crushes Umma's forces and forces them to swear, again, to respect the border that a king named Mesilim had already died defining. That's not the end of it either. Generations after Eannatum, another Lagash ruler, Entemena, redigs the very canal Mesilim's original border referenced and inscribes Mesilim's name directly into his own monument as the original judge whose ruling still, after a century of war, defines where Lagash ends and Umma begins. A stone king planted in a field outlives him by over 100 years and still wins the argument. The empire this idea built, you're standing inside its legacy right now. Every fence between two properties, every checkpoint between two nations, every disputed strip of land on the evening news, Kashmir, the West Bank, the Korean DMZ, all of it runs on the same core idea Mesilim carved into a slab of stone in a Sumerian field, that a line, backed by enough authority, can turn violence into rules. It doesn't always work. Ush proved that the same day he ripped the stone from the ground. Borders have never stopped being broken since, but the idea that a line could be sacred, could be enforced, could be worth writing down and defending in a court instead of a battlefield, that idea starts here. You have never lived a single day of your life outside a border someone, somewhere, once drew the way Mesilim did. Every map you've ever looked at, every country, every state, every fence line between two backyards is a direct descendant of a stone slab planted in a Sumerian field almost 4,600 years ago. Mesilim never meant to invent anything. He was just trying to stop two cities from killing each other over dirt. He succeeded, for a while. Long enough for someone to write it down. Long enough for the idea to outlive the war it was supposed to prevent. Somewhere on Earth, right now, someone is standing exactly where a line like his says they're allowed to stand, and not 1 inch further.